Well, at least 20 people were injured after a drone launch from Yemen hit the Israeli resort town of Eilat near the borders with Jordan and Egypt. This attack happened as the Middle East is in the spotlight at the United Nations General Assembly, where countries seem to be tripping over themselves to recognize a Palestinian state. Joining me now is Washington Stand reporter Casey Harper, who has been following these events. Casey, what's the latest on the war between Israel and Hamas and a possible deal?
Well, Tony, tripping over themselves is the right way to put it, but Hamas has reportedly sent a letter to President Trump in a new development. In that letter, they offered a 2-month ceasefire in exchange for the release of half of the remaining Israeli hostages. Now, according to Fox News, the letter is currently being held by Qatari officials and is expected to be delivered to Trump later this week. Amid these developments, President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron met for bilateral talks. In those talks, Palestinian statehood emerged as a key point of contention. When asked about France and other U.S. allies or recognizing a Palestinian state, President Trump said this.
I was always saying the last hostages are going to be the toughest ones, but you can't honor them by doing anything like you suggest. All you can do is say, we want our hostages back, and we want the war to end. We're going to want it to end.
President Trump and others have made an important point. They say recognizing Palestinian statehood now is rewarding Hamas for the October 7th attack, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you see it any other way. Now, I have to say it's unbelievable to see what these European countries are doing to state they are calling for a Palestinian state. Now, I don't see how it can be described any other way than rewarding Hamas, a terrorist group that has vowed to wipe Israel off the map. Now, Casey, President Trump reportedly, as I saw, also sat down with leaders from several Muslim nations. So what came out of those meetings?
Yeah, that's right, Tony. President Trump said Tuesday he held what he called very successful meetings on Gaza with key Muslim leaders. He told reporters he expects Israel to join the talks soon, saying, I think we can work something out on Gaza. According to Politico, President Trump told Arab leaders he won't let Israel annex the West Bank, though, which is, of course, Judea and Samaria, Tony.
Well, thanks, Casey. I actually think that could be somewhat problematic on many fronts when you're talking about Judea and Samaria, which is the biblical heartland and key to Israel's security. Well, on another topic, in his speech yesterday, President Trump took aim at the mayor of London, accusing him of letting the city be overrun by migrants. That's pretty sharp rhetoric.
Yeah, in true Trump style, he was pulling no punches, Tony, and speaking from the UN stage, no less. But President Trump slammed Mayor Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, and in fact, he warned that they're headed towards Sharia law. He even went further, saying, quote, both immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something isn't done immediately. Strong words, Tony.
It is. Thank you, Casey. President Trump now says Ukraine can potentially win the war with Russia. Now, Casey, that seems to be a pretty significant shift in perspective.
It certainly is. It was a dramatic shift, and President Trump now says Ukraine can win the war and actually should act quickly to reclaim all of its territory from Russia. Now, those comments came after President Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York. And meanwhile, President Zelensky actually urged world powers to help stop Russia's war in Ukraine. He warned in his UN speech that the conflict is fueling a dangerous global arms race.
We are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence.
Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he warned today at the UN that President Trump's patience on ending the war in Ukraine is not infinite. He said the time is coming when Russia will face consequences for its continued aggression.
All right, Casey, thanks so much for the update on what's happening not only at the UN, but around the world.